Let me talk about a big word I like to use in recovery that I, for some reason, was kind of not in the midst of actually using the word. I've heard it, the word being, floating around in the realm of drug and alcohol and addiction recovery. And I wanted to kind of hopefully give you guys understanding, because I did not understand what this meant. Of course, maybe there was a part of me that did understand what that meant. But for those out there who are just trying to kind of reach themselves into this sort of very confusing world of addiction recovery, the first thing we're going to talk about is a state of being grounded. And what does that mean? The state of being grounded, the word grounded. And when I was a young kid, I used to think like being grounded meant that you were in trouble, or that was a result of you having to go to a spot, right? Or your parents saying you're grounded, you're not allowed to go anywhere, right? I thought that was interesting because not that the word grounded means you're not allowed to go anywhere, but the word grounded itself, it's a very very deep concept if you really think about it. Being grounded means that you need to give yourself time to understand the nature of what is going on with you. But when you're floating away from your recovery, right? You float away from the concept of being grounded, right? When you're grounded in your recovery, it means you are strong, right? And it depends on what that means for you. For me, the state of being grounded means a state of deep connection with myself, my higher power, and my community, meaning my recovering community. A feeling of being in the presence of peace, strength, and hope. And that is essential for my higher sense of awareness, for my wisdom, and for my ability to continue learning more about myself in a very, very, very self confident state of mind, that I may be able to learn more about who and what and why and where and how, all the deep questions of who I am. So I need to answer these questions. I need to know what it means. If I'm in a state of being grounded, that means I can now have the safe space to enter into those personal wounds that I want to begin working on. And the fact that I'm grounded in this moment in time gives me a great opportunity to do this in a very self constructive way without injuring or harming myself in any way, in any abusive way whatsoever, that's going to basically, I would say, deter me from being able to find that higher version of consciousness of who I am. So, when I'm grounded, that is when it's safe for me to continue trudging along this very difficult path of addiction recovery. Not only from just addiction, but it could be any other state of maybe things that you don't feel right about yourself. Find yourself, getting frustrated and angry, or you're gravitating towards thoughts that are not so healthy for yourself, or you're feeling that you need to disconnect from everything. That is a state of no longer being grounded, right? That is a state of being in trouble, right? That's what I like to call it, in trouble, where you're no longer thinking of the positive effects you can make for yourself and other people. If you're constantly thinking about self, 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 and you're not reaching out for other people's opinions and having a constructive way to better yourself, you'll find that soon enough, if you're willing to be honest and open, right, and you're willing to understand that you can be just a little bit more flexible with other people's opinions, of their constructive opinion, and you try to look at that from a third person point of view, right? From a higher, I would say a higher power point of view, right? You can see that maybe there are certain character defects that might need to be practiced and worked on. And for me, one of the biggest character defects was dishonesty. As a recovering addict, that is the number one thing that I would just always gravitate towards, which was dishonesty. Dishonesty. Maybe some random person walking around and they ask me something and I just freaking they tell me something about myself or whatever. They ask me a question or whatever it is, that whatever the topic is for that day. Some random person I don't even know, and I'm over there saying blah 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 blah, and then whoops, out spits a lie. And I'm like, why in the world did I just commit to this dishonest approach of who I am to this random person I don't know? Right? So if that's me, that's my dishonest approach towards life. I'm now starting to float away from being grounded with myself. I'm starting to reach a point of being in trouble, floating away from trouble, floating away from being grounded, and now getting myself into the realm of being in trouble. So, in order to get ourselves out of trouble, right, we don't need to get upset with ourselves, right? We need to basically be aware and say, oh, that's not good. The sooner we can be self-aware about it, the more we can start to reach out for help from other people. When we reach help from other people, we go chat with people, right? And they talk about how they pulled themselves out of this thought process, right? And you go, oh, maybe I can apply that for myself. Maybe that might help for me. And you apply it to your daily living. You don't just say, oh, okay, I'll do that. But you apply it from your from your mind to your heart and to your outer being and inner being, right? And you start to live an action of what it is exactly that pulls you back into the state of being grounded. And when you're grounded, you again are experiencing the full state of being in deep connection with yourself, higher power, mind being God, and your community, and my community, my recovering community, right? And then I am, exhibiting a feeling of being in the presence of peace, strength, and hope. That is a good definition of what being grounded means to me, and how that helps me to continue to trudge along the path of self-discovery and no longer pointing the finger at why other things aren't working in my life. Ex-girlfriend did that, my mom did that, or my dad did that, my sister did that. This happened, my boss was being ridiculous or asking too much from me, blah blah blah. Resentments start to add up, and then we start stepping out of the state of being grounded. So when we realize that, the biggest key is to have the audacity to approach our our selfish ways, really. And we use that as a way to reach out for help, connect with other people, and use what we call humility to say that I don't have all the answers. I did for about 4 hours. I had all the answers. I figured out life, and now I'm lost. I don't know where to go from here. Call a friend. Reach out for someone from the community. Read a book that will help you understand more about what your state of groundedness is, or maybe read a book about how someone else got through that confusing state of mind, and you apply that. Maybe you need to go to a meeting if you're in addictions, if you're receiving an addiction to something. Maybe going to a meeting helps you to kind of step outside yourself and realize that other people are trying to get shit off their chest, and realize, and you start to think, I can provide some advice for that person, because you've learned that along your road of recovery. But something you haven't learned yet in your recovery, someone else might feed that to you. So we're constantly giving each other this gift, right, of strength and hope and peace, so that we can once again be brought back to the state of being grounded. Hopefully you liked the video. That is what grounded means in recovery. Recovery being from any sort of addiction, any sort of mental health or anything like that, where we are losing sense of ourselves. So hopefully you like that. Have a great, wonderful day.